Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show. Another exciting show, definitely another exciting guest. We're going all the way to Utah, and we're going to talk about a old ancient Chinese method called Kokoro, and we're going to understand its purpose. And let me go a little bit deeper. We've always talked about Western practices and how implementing those in certain areas of our life changes our lives to some degree, and some people it doesn't. But this particular method has been around for quite some time. And the young lady who's on the show today is going to tell us how this entered her beast mindset with the things that she's gone through. So let's welcome to the show, all the way from Utah, Pennie Wilson. What's up, Pennie?
Thank you so much, Andre. It's great to be here. Excited to talk about what can empower people to upload and shift their mindset upwards. Yeah.
I like the way that sounds. You know, I looked at your bio, and there's a lot of, I won't say a lot of trauma, but there's a lot of things we're dealing with, letting people not put you in the form of a leadership, so to speak, or you having to bear the weight of a lot of things that you dealt with in your life growing up. Before we get started, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are before we go down this beautiful journey.
Yeah, you bet. So my journey kind of did start in that place where I call it my momzilla stage. 20 years ago, I was completely emotionally reactive. I didn't have control of my own emotions. I didn't know what emotional regulation was, or even that calm was a goal. I didn't know that being calm helped my relationships to be strong. All of that was unaware to my existence. So beginning in that place where depression, I was the youngest in my family, I was the smallest at school, I had a victim mindset, and I didn't know that I felt powerless and I had those powerless beliefs. And that's one of the things that I really am proud of myself for, that I've been able to shift out of that victim mindset by the things that I learned. I felt called at that time to grow a garden of all things. And in that garden setting, I was able to learn the principles, the natural principles that helped me to shift my mindset. And one of the most amazing things that came to my mind that's been developing over the past 20 years is the image that I often talk about of the sun and the clouds. And I'll just frame it really quickly because I'm sure it's going to come up more as we talk. So there are two opposite things pulling on us internally at all times. One is representative metaphorically of the sun, what we desire, what we want to move toward, a desired outcome, a vision, something pulling us upward and forward. And the opposite of that is the clouds pulling us down, the heaviness of the emotional reactions we go through, all the things, and that can be representative of fear. So desire and fear being the two opposite things that are always pulling on us at the same time. And mental fitness with Kokoro, with the Kokoro repatterning method, is exactly the ability to focus your mind on what you desire and to let go of what you fear.
Let me go back a little bit to take the listeners down a deeper path here, because the Kokoro method is ancient. Before you went down these things, you mentioned some key factors I think people need to focus on. You was always retroactive. You didn't realize that calm was obtainable.
Yes.
Give me some of the things that put you that now that you look back, that you was always in that victim mindset. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of us, I'm going to just call it like it is. A lot of us do not take an internal look at ourselves. I think we value so much outside presence, like you said, the cloud theory, to instead of going towards the right kind of light. I don't want people to get this confused and say, oh, I'm going to light. There's multiple lights. You got to find out which one you're going to. But to go back to your question, what were some of those things that you was really facing, that you were seeing as a child growing up into the mature woman that you are, that was handicapping you?
Yeah, I love that question, because using that gift to look inside, that really is the beginning of the journey. Knowing yourself so that you can love yourself. I really did not like myself at all. In fact, I hated myself. And when I looked at myself, there were all the thoughts of criticism and judgment, and I'm not enough. All the thoughts of I'm worthless, or I feel small, or I'm inferior to other people. All of those were my natural default things. Any child from the age of 0 to 7 grows up constantly in a theta brain state. That's the state of the mind where it is continually programmed with whatever default programming we end up living with as an adult. So I saw the example of my dad, just for example, that my dad felt sorry for himself often. He would often look at the reasons why he wasn't loved. He was the middle child. He was this and that and this. And by the time he passed, he actually could not remember any of the good things about his life. He couldn't remember the people that had helped him. He couldn't remember any good memories, all the things we did camping when we were kids, all the good things, because he allowed his mind to constantly be pulled down to the clouds, the bad memories, why he wasn't enough. But that was the paradigm, the default thinking of where he lived. And that's what I grew up with as an example. So that's what I had the opportunity to pull myself out of. All the heavy things that we experience in life can be used for our benefit. I use that very thing to be able to pull myself upward and forward and use that as now that's my strength. I can intentionally look toward the good things, the desired outcome, what I do want to create, and help others to do that as well.
I can tell you got a deep love for your father, and I'm pretty sure that it was heartbreaking for you to know that he died with that mindset. But let's go back to your mom. What was that like for you, and what was her mindset like? And the reason I'm telling people this is we often hear this word, several words that we heard since COVID: narcissistic personality, dysfunction, generational trauma. Yeah. But I think in 2026 I'm gonna rephrase that generational trauma and put it in a different mindset so people can understand. Because we have a tendency to take words and start to amplify them instead of looking at the big picture. Mm-hmm. Let's use your father. God rest his soul. Let's use your father before we get to your mom. Your father can only remember what he had to work with in his structure. Does that make any sense?
Yep, absolutely.
And I think when people see that, that's not a generational thing, because I believe with each generation, you should be able to elevate something to depress the one part that was missing. Does that make any sense? That's not generational. That's based on like you said, the program information that was given to them at that time is all they had to work with. Yeah. They could not process new information to that capability. Like my dad, he can't operate a cell phone, to its fullest potential. He has limitations. So let's go back here. And the reason I say this is because this is all going to make sense with the Japanese teaching. So let's go here. We talked about your father. Let's go with your mom. What was she bringing to your table?
Well, because my parents split when I was 3 months old, I was raised by a single mom. There was 6 kids born in 8 years. So we were all very close in age. And being the youngest, my siblings said that I was spoiled, which looking back, yes, I can now see that. She felt often that she needed to protect me. And because of that needing to be protected, my default mental belief went to I'm incapable. So having needed to be protected meant that I was weak. So my mom loved me. She worked hard. She did everything that she could. And one of the gifts I love that she gave is she taught me to work in the garden. She taught me to pull weeds. I was out there, I had to go pull weeds before I could go play with my friends. So that ethic of working was the biggest thing. There was the lack of ability to have time with me. So I didn't have that time to play with her. So often as a mother, I found myself struggling. How do I play with my kids? Working and cleaning, yes, I can do that, but playing with my kids was hard. So, my mom was amazing. She was not the narcissistic figure, but where that narcissistic pattern came in was when I was 12. She married a man that his name was Grenade, and he acted like a grenade. Yeah.
Wait a minute. His name was what?
Grenade. Yeah, really.
How can you not forget that?
I know, you never will, right?
Yeah.
So that's where that pattern came in, and the narcissistic habits of me learning to shrink and people please and do whatever he wanted done so that I was afraid of the conflict, just stay silent, fly under the radar, don't be seen. All of those patterns were born in me at that time, from the time I was 12 to 16. There were a couple good things that came out of it. I learned how to clean very thoroughly, which is great. I know how to organize. He was the guy on Sleeping with the Enemy.
Yeah.
It has all of the cans facing forward in the cupboard. Like, he was that guy. So he was very precise and controlling. There was one time at 3 a.m. that we were woken up out of bed with a yelling sergeant commanding lined up in the hallway, and he was missing his grandmother's washcloth. And we were all being accused and assailed and strung up because this washcloth was gone. So
what did your mom say?
She was also in the people-pleasing mindset and afraid of the conflict. That's the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. She showed the example of how to be the fawn, how to be quiet, how to not cause a conflict. Just let it be. Just be quiet, and, it wasn't necessarily an intentional thing. And that's the thing about the clouds and the sun. When we move toward the clouds, it's an intentional desire. But when we move toward the clouds, it's a default reaction. We don't choose it because we want it. Because we're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Let me go here. As you get older, we start to, let me go here. Thank you for the download. We go here. Daddy's little girl, to at some point of your life, I'm not going to call your mom dysfunctional or anything like that. A parent that was unable to understand the full duties of a parent, your mom. Do you find yourself now, which one do you find yourself gravitating to more to kind of shape your life?
As far as my mother or my father?
Yeah. Because let me go here, Pennie, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
You haven't found the method yet. You're still growing. You follow what I'm saying? So
Actually, that I think I found the method.
Yeah, grenade ain't the way to go. Your mom is said, your dad is this way. But you got to find a common thread to kind of navigate you till you got to that point. Which way do you lead to?
Well, that's the thing about your past and your default patterns. That's why I developed the Kokoro repatterning method, is because it helps you to look at what happened in your past and then intentionally look at what you want to create in your future. So the 4 R's that is the method of the Kokoro repatterning method is, first and number 1, to recognize. What didn't I like about all of that? I didn't like about being controlled. I didn't like about feeling inferior. So what did I choose? I chose to replace it with the belief, actually removing the default belief of I'm inferior, I'm incapable, I'm unloved, unworthy, replacing it with I am capable, replacing it with the belief that I can do amazing, hard, big things, and then reimagining is that 4th R that moves you into using your mind to visualize the person that you want to become. So that method takes you from my brain is totally focused on who I am not or why I'm incapable into truly seeing and empowering that embodied belief somatically in your body so that you can visualize and see it and feel it and become it.
I guess what I was saying before that, thank you for that clarification on that. But what I was saying is, before this method came into your space, you still had 2 parents that you had to deal with. Mm-hmm. And that where you are now was not who you were then. So Absolutely. How did you determine which path which path were you following before you went there? Because you just said you knew how to clean, you learned how to clean through your mom, you learned how to do this through your mom, but with your own kids, you couldn't do this. So before that came into your space, which characteristics were you showing more of, your mom or your dad?
I'm not sure it was more of either, because I exhibited a lot of self-pity because of my dad's behavior, because of feeling incapable and inferior. I absorbed those paradigms into my belief system. And I actually grew a tumor on my left ovary that was 20 centimeters big that had to be surgically removed. And that was an emotional response to me feeling sorry for myself. So I definitely emulated all of my dad in all of that. My mom also had generational depression, things going on. Work ethic was really great, and going into her patterns of working, pushing, being an overachiever, I still, have to slow myself down and pull myself back a little bit. I need to rest more than I have to push myself to work. So I think it was a combination of both of them.
When was the breaking point? Let me go here before we go there to the breaking point. And I think people need to get some clarity, because, you brought it up. You have children.
Mm-hmm.
What was it doing to your children? How were you as a parent, knowing what you know now? Because like you said, we can look back and you're like, damn, I was a fucked up dad. I was a fucked up mom. When you look back, what was your children going through, and what were you going through? What was your relationships going through?
Yeah. So I think it's a good description to say the answer to both of those things by describing my breaking point. So it was, I have 5 kids. They were born, it doesn't matter the time span, but after my third child was born, maybe it was my fourth one, I had a breaking point where I was trying to get them to clean up. And they were little. And I don't even know why I had that expectation that they could do this, like strange assumptions in my head, but they weren't listening to me. And what caused the breakdown was that little straw of me asking them to do something and them not listening and not doing it. It was the breaking point of me realizing, number one, that I couldn't control them, but number two, that I did not have control within myself. So I had to face that part of me to see this isn't someone that can continue. I can't keep being this momzilla person that demands or requires or controls. I was exhibiting some of my stepdad as well in that behavior. And then realizing that I needed to burn down that past part of me. It really was something that just had to go, and learning to recreate and reinvent myself. So that was the breaking point. I know it sounds really weird, but inside I really lost. And I think it really was the thought of no one will listen to me. My kids won't listen to me, which means that I am powerless, which means that I don't have value. All of those beliefs that tumbled down and really broke me.
Were there moments of deep depression for you, suicidal thoughts? I mean, what was that like for you? And more importantly, the double answer to that is, did you have an outlet? Because this is what I said when I say outlet. We always talk about the word generational trauma, but let's go real. Where's the outlet? Because during that time phase, I'm pretty sure people weren't going to therapy.
Yeah, I wasn't. I think learning for me was the outlet. That I was reading books. I did homeschool with my kids since they were born, since the first one was born. So I needed to set the example of learning for them and with them. So that was my intention. That was a good outlet for me. So that really helped me to feel like I was progressing and growing. But I didn't know what emotional processing was. I didn't know what to do with my emotions. I didn't know how to reframe them in a way that was healthy. All I did was ruminate on the unhealthy things, where there was blame, there was not taking responsibility, basically, and really not knowing the difference between what I can control as a healthy human being and what is mine to let go of. That was very, very muddled because of the codependency, because of all of that past that I hadn't yet learned how to clarify.
When you mentioned you have 5 children, that means you got a relationship. How were you able to function knowing that you hadn't evolved the right tools at that particular point as it deals with a husband, a wife, or a boyfriend, or your children's father?
Yeah. So looking back, I can see that I was broken, especially there was a point after my second child was born, there was a serious part of postpartum depression. And I had thoughts of hurting my baby, which sounds horrible and awful. And I had a dream actually because of this Momzilla thing that was happening and the anger. It wasn't necessarily suicide ideation, but because of the anger, it was the outburst, it was the outer energy and that thought of hurting my baby. And there was a dream that I had where I visually saw the consequences of what that might look like. And it really did give a huge wake up call. Like, I've got to get this under control. I've got to figure out what is going on.
I've never heard nothing ever being said like that. And my hat's off to you for coming on and being so transparent. But let's go down that road for a minute, because you're not the only person. I never heard nobody saying that they thought about doing this to their child. I mean, were you that emotionally messed up? Like, what were you thinking? What was the consequences? If you don't mind me asking.
It's okay. I'm open. It was the dream where I don't want to plant the visual image in anyone else's mind. Right. So I don't want to be graphic and detailed in that way. Right. But it was the visual image of me hurting my baby and then seeing actual, I would say, blood. Like there was, I had really hurt her and then feeling inside, oh my gosh, what just happened? What did I do? So it was as if it really had happened because that dream was so vivid and real to me. So I was going through lots of heavy emotions, lots of self-doubt, criticism, I'm worthless, like all of those I'm judgmental criticism thoughts, where I didn't know how to shift. I didn't know the difference between a thought that would take me toward depression versus a thought, how do you even shift that? I didn't have any contrast, any tools of what to do with that.
Now, let me make sure I got this right. This was about the time you had the third child that you was having?
That was the second.
Second? Mm-hmm. But you had other children. Did these thoughts keep popping in and out? And more importantly, did you share it with your kid's father? Hey, you know what? We might want to hold off having children because, you know what I mean? I just had this crazy ass dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been logical. But when you're living in a state of fight or flight, life is not logical. Life, I do remember that life felt like one constant emergency after another. Just for example, we went on a trip in a used new RV, new to us. At one trip, there were three major things that happened. And this kind of like is the symbology of what happened all the time in my life. There was our tires that caught on a flat tire, our engine caught on fire, and then we hit a sheep on the way down from the mountain. That was the kind of constant emergencies. I was living in adrenaline, constant fight or flight. There was always someone that was breaking, yelling, doors being broken. There was one, like the door broke in the storm because there was an emergency and my husband had walked through a sliding glass door. Like my brain was constantly in this state of fight or flight. So thinking rationally and logically, that is not part of how the brain can work when you're in a state of fight or flight.
Your closest confidant is your husband.
Should have been.
What was that like?
That was the narcissistic marriage that lasted for 17 years. I gave
17
away.
years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I gave away my power. I let him choose. I let him control me.
Let's go deeper. When do you get your power back, and how does this art of this Japanese art come into play for you?
I got my power back when I chose to claim it. I decided that I was going to choose for myself. I felt like toward the end of the marriage, after 16-ish years, that I was staying in the marriage for my kids. And by the 17th year, I recognized I needed to get out of the marriage for my kids so that they could see another example of what healthy looks like. If they don't ever see that modeled, they're not going to be able to have a healthy marriage in their own life. So I knew at that ending point that I needed to get out of that marriage to be that example. And now I'm living that life with my new husband. We've been married for 4 years. We're absolutely in love with each other, adore each other. We have healthy relationships. We address conflict safely. We share our emotions. So it's a huge different way that I've learned to live now versus before. So did that answer your question?
What was the toughest part about adapting to this new way of life, a new way of thinking? It's almost like that beast mindset. I tell people the beast mindset is the new way of thinking. How did you manage to take this new way of thinking, and how long did it take for you to start seeing results? Because a lot of people can say, okay, I want to change my mindset, and they think it's something that you can do overnight, and it's not an overnight situation. How did all this come into play with you? How long did it take, and what was the toughest part for you to accept in this new way of mindset thinking?
The toughest part in that decision of choosing to get divorced at that moment was that I had an intuitive knowledge that my kids would hate me, that I was going to be made the bad guy, and I was. So what I had to do through that process was love my enemy and continue to love my kids, even though I felt like at times that love was rejected. So learning to shift from that victim mindset, it has taken the past 20 years. But there has been a guiding process of being led internally from what's the one next step? What's the one next thing that I can choose, that I can control? What am I learning right now? And how to shift that one step at a time. So there's 3 key focuses that we continue to use in our program, and this helps me every single day. Number 1, visualizing and looking toward what do I want? Looking at the sun. Number 2 is what is hard? The clouds. Acknowledge it. It's real. It's part of life. And what can I learn from it? And number 3, what's my one next step? People do want automatic instant transformation. Yeah. But it doesn't work that way. It's a delayed gratification. It requires you to keep taking one step at a time, because if you were to jump from step number 1 to step number 100 all at once, you would not be able to acclimate the way that you think you instantly could. So the change, the mind, the body, all of it needs time to slowly transition. But there are ways that you can quickly change your beliefs. And there are 3 things that I teach people how to do that. Number 1 is images. Number 2 is words. And number 3 is emotions. So that's what we do in our program, is help them to shift and recognize what are the things I'm believing right now in the clouds, and what do I want to create in that program in where I'm going.
What's the combination between help me pronounce it again? Kokoro and manifestation, because it sounds symbolic to each other to some degree. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so Kokoro is the meaning of heart, body, mind, and soul. It's the integrated wholeness of having everything aligned, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and having all of that intuitively integrated into your body. So it becomes an automatic response. Where we come from that state of the default is an unintentional automatic response, and we want to move into an intentional desire where I'm intentionally responding. So mental fitness is the bridge between the Eastern medicine way of manifestation. Some people call it woo-woo, all of those things that aren't necessarily scientifically proven. And then the Western medicine of this is the way that science proves things. This is, visibly tangible results, evidence-based, all of that. Mental fitness is kind of a bridge between the two of them so that you can use your mind in a state of visualization. There's a gal in the UK, her name is Maya Richero, and she teaches specifically mental fitness and visualization to Olympian level athletes. And so she teaches this skill.
Because I was an Olympic candidate and a professional bodybuilder, and a lot of people find this hard to believe, but throughout my whole career as a bodybuilder, I envision me being on the stage. I envision placing. This is a tripped out part. I guess I could have used my manifestation powers a little bit stronger, but I never envisioned just like winning everything. I'd always say, help me do my best. Let me get in the top 5. And if something transpires from that, and now that I look back based on what you said, every human being has the ability to align themselves with a purpose of self alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. We are all creators. We have that power to choose. We all have a brain. We all have a mind. We all have the ability to think what we want to think and feel what we want to feel, even though it takes practice to get there, one step at a time. Instead of allowing that thought, I'm worthless, just to go back to what my default wiring is, intentionally shifting it to, I'm capable. I can do it. That is a choice. You can choose it. And that's what I hope people can gain from today.
Let me go here, and we're going to, before we wrap up, when we talk about things like this, individuals get a lot of ridicule from the religious sector. You know, like if you do this, that's hogwash. You need to repent. You need to go to church. And what's your take on it? Because I'm pretty sure your method has been met with some of the same challenges as well.
Actually, it's interesting that you asked that question because the 4 R's is derived from the principles in the 12-step program. So if you look at it from a religious perspective, people that need to repent, quote unquote, they're focused on the clouds of doing something that's unhealthy. And they're being called to repent because they need to shift from the clouds to the sun. So the 4 R's actually is a healthy way to repent. The only problem with religion is that they focus so much on what you're doing wrong and the shame and the slap and the hammer. You're killing a fly with a hammer. Right?
Yeah.
That's not necessary. What that person that's been through a hard time needs is compassion. They need understanding. They need a gentle way to shift from the clouds to the sun.
Let me go here. You got my mind open now.
Nice.
What has been some of the success stories? Give me a great success story outside of yourself from this teaching. And you still didn't tell me, how did the teaching come to you?
It wasn't.
I mean, this is Japanese.
Well, so I am an intuitive learner. I gain insights from the lessons that come inside of me. Just for example, while I was going through that garden stage, I had a mentor, and this epiphany came to me, like the way to change the world is to change myself. And I told my mentor this quote, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like, you're quoting someone else. And I'm like, who? She says, Gandhi. I said, what? So I went on this streak to go learn about Gandhi. Right. So these things come to me, and at first it feels crazy because I have no outside point of reference for where they came from. But then I compare them. Oh, they learned this same principle in this way, and their quote is this. So I learned these things intuitively along my journey over the 20 years. And then one step at a time, being able to implement it, live it myself, and teach it to other people.
So kind of like lead by example.
Absolutely.
People see you do it, and then they go.
Yeah, there's no other way.
Back to my last question here. Give me an example of somebody that the method actually, they were at the point where you were at. And you don't have to give their name, but just the story.
Well, there's several that come to mind. The one that feels like it's the most amazing because it's been the shortest amount of time is someone that came to me with suicide ideation, lots of heaviness going on there. And this wasn't something new for him. He had been dealing with this for a long time. And we began doing private sessions together. And I remember reaching out. I'm like, text me anytime if you need any support. So one night, me and my husband were watching a movie, and he texts me and he's like, I'm crashing. I need some help. So I have a meditation that's 20 minutes long that I've listened to myself that shifts me in 20 minutes from heavy, I can't do anything, I'm useless, powerless, into, okay, what's my one next thing I need to do? And I sent him that meditation. And he said he shifted from like a triggered emotional state, like he was at an 8 or 9. And after the 20-minute, just listening to that one session, he came down to a 2. So shifts can happen quickly. And he was able to, through our six sessions working together, he was able to shift enough to where he said the outside circumstances of his life actually didn't change. He had one of his best friends that was killed on New Year's Day. He had another one of his clients who committed suicide. He was building a house all at the same time. So what I do is I train people to stay calm under pressure. And he said those outside circumstances didn't change, but the way he responded to it was
His
changing.
reaction is
Exactly. The way he was responding, the way he was interpreting it, the way that he was thinking about himself.
Yeah.
So he really is now stepping into a place where he's learning to love himself, to have compassion, and to see that part that he's looking toward his potential. He's writing a book. He's finding the way that he's going to make an impact and a difference in the world.
You know, I am so glad you came on the show to share
Thank you.
this great information. I think that I tell people there's numerous ways to change your mindset. You don't always have to be a Buddhist. You don't have to go here. You have to really look kind of deep in yourself and find what works best for you, you know, to elevate that beast mindset. What's next for you?
Well, definitely building out our Kokoro repatterning method and moving it into mainstream. We want mental fitness to be accessible and available to parents, teachers, and leaders. Long-term goal, we're launching a board game called Conquering FUD, Fear, Uncertainty, Doubt, Dread, and Discouragement. So that's the long-term goal, and just continuing to empower people. We really want people to find answers inside of themselves and know that they can claim their power to choose.
Don't you feel good? I think you know. What's your purpose? I think you already know your purpose. What is it?
I am a powerful, meek, and victorious weapon of light, born to lead through galvanism, to create synergistic solutions for the glory of God.
How long have you been practicing that?
About 12 years. It's come little by little, piece by piece.
Yeah, you know what? You know, you're a ray of sunshine. I can feel the energy all the way here. I like the fact that you gave practical solutions to what seems to be the most difficult challenges that we deal with every day, and that's overcoming our own inner struggles. I'm not going to use the word demons, our own inner struggles. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. How can the viewers reach out to you and get more information about you and your program?
Yeah, you bet. There is a 3-minute quiz you can take. It is on the top right corner of our website. It's kokorocreators.com. That's KOKORO creators.com. And take that quiz and it'll guide you one step at a time through a 4-step journey. And I would love to connect with you.
Sounds like we're in a Pennie. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, make sure you subscribe, like, share, follow. Click that button. All it takes is one click of a button to make a difference in your life or to change somebody else's. This has been another, and I do mean another, exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Creighton Show.